Welcome back, everyone, to Stay in Your Lane. I'm your host, John Mahle. We're podcasting again from FSA 24, Food Shippers of America Conference. Today, we've got Jeff Potts, AutoScheduler. But Jeff, Joe's beside you. You guys have known each other many years. Joe Lombardo.
We have.
Yeah.
I knew Jeff when he wasn't that tall.
Really?
Yeah. He's the tallest man in logistics. I don't know if you know that.
I think that would probably be. I think that would be so. Yeah. I've been coming for at least 16 conferences, and you're probably
one of the taller ones, right?
Yeah.
Although you're no shorty either, Joe.
Nah, but you got me beat.
Well, you know, I know we're all shrinking at this stage.
Yeah.
None of us are getting taller at this stage. So, Jeff, if you would, share with us where you got into transportation, because I know you didn't start at AutoScheduler,
Right.
but I want to share your, from the beginning to today.
Yeah. So I graduated from Michigan State with a degree in logistics a long, long time ago. And my first job out of college was working for a small family-owned third-party logistics company. At the time, it was known as Taylor Warehousing and Produce, and then they transformed to TLC, or Total Logistic Control. So started out on the warehousing side of the business, managing warehouses, both cold storage as well as dry storage operations. They had a vision. They wanted to get into logistics, which at that time in the early 80s was a fairly new term. Most people, if you asked them, you said you work for a logistics company, the first question they'd ask you is, what is logistics? They had never heard of it. It was more of a military term. So, but they wanted to get into logistics. So we bought assets of a refrigerated carrier, applied for a brokerage license, applied for 48 state contract authority and Michigan intrastate authority. Long story short, we really got into a fairly diversified transportation business. Ultimately, that business was acquired by Ryder. I left there in 1999 to start a company called Lean Logistics. Lean Logistics was really one of the very early companies doing what we called single instance, multi-tenant TMS solutions. So in other words, all shippers, all carriers, all on a common platform. And prior to that, most companies were running installed software on their own servers behind their firewall. And so the whole concept of using the power of the internet to have one TMS platform that everybody was using was kind of a new thing. So we started that company in 99. We sold it in 2008. I continued on through that sale, became part of a holding company called Brambles. Most people don't know who Brambles is, but many people know who CHEP is. CHEP is a pallet pooling company. So we were owned by Brambles from 2008 to 2016. And then we were sold to a private equity firm called Francisco Partners. They merged us with another software company called Keywell Systems, and that was rebranded as Blue Jay Solutions. So stayed through that. And then in 2021, Blue Jay, the plan was we were going to do an IPO, but we got acquired by a SPAC, a recently formed SPAC out of Austin, Texas, company called E2 Open.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And they acquired a number of software companies. So I stayed for about 8 months through that transition and really wanted to get back into kind of the early days of a software company, that had a really good idea, and how do you take that idea to marketplace. So I was fortunate enough to connect with Tom Moore, the chairman of AutoScheduler, and Keith Moore, CEO, his son. And so I joined them in May of 2022. So been there ever since.
Wow. So you're going back into the early 80s.
I am. I'm one of the dinosaurs. Joe and I.
Yeah. Joe's a lot grayer, though.
Well, I think that's a pretty remarkable run. I mean, if you think about it, most people, they come into our industry and they don't necessarily last that long, or they can do one thing. You've covered a lot.
Yeah,
a lot.
It kind kind of gets in your blood. It's something that you either really like it, and logistics and supply chain's a challenging area for those that are in it day in and day out. But if you enjoy it, you can get a lot of satisfaction out of it as well.
I would agree. I think that once it's in your blood, it's difficult to leave.
Right.
I do. I highly commend. I think it's a great thing for you, and it's a great thing for the Moores with the AutoScheduler. Number one, Thomas Moore and Keith. But I met Thomas originally, and what a down to earth, enjoyable, genuine, real human being.
Right.
I mean, you can't help but love him as a person. And when you get to work with people that you really respect and care for,
Right.
that are high character,
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a great fit for you and for him.
Right. Yeah.
It's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Tom's been in the business a long time as well, and he's been very successful at what he does. And he's very down to earth practitioner, right? And he drives a lot of value for a lot of large organizations, and it's in very practical ways that he does that. And that's kind of the attraction when we joined AutoScheduler is it's a very unique solution to help drive a lot of value in and around big, large distribution centers and
Efficiencies.
Yeah, a lot of efficiencies, and so it's a lot of fun to roll it out. A lot of evangelizing because you're doing something new that nobody really when you talk about warehouse orchestration, a lot of people is like, okay, what is that? I have a WMS, so what do you do that a WMS doesn't do?
They're not the same.
They're not the same.
Most people don't. They've not looked at it, all sides of transportation to understand that.
Right.
So, what I really appreciate is the practical approach that they bring to the table. And I think both Thomas and Keith and yourself, you're going to sit down with somebody and analyze what they're doing, and you say, this may be necessary for these reasons, but this may bring a value for these reasons. But if it's not the right fit, it's not the right fit.
Right.
And you guys are the type of company that says, this isn't going to pay off today, but it may be a value because of the things that you can't control.
Right.
Key people, where people are making those decisions
Right.
now. When you turn it over to software,
yeah,
it's going to be different, but it's going to allow growth.
Right. Right. And I think too, when you look at supply chain, supply chain has changed a lot over the last 20 years. There's a lot more complexity to supply chain today. There's a lot more speed and velocity in supply chains today. And so, the old ways of kind of trying to fake it till you make it, or just kind of working hard to try to come up with an outcome, just doesn't work very well in today's environment. Right?
No, it won't work.
And you really need to leverage tools that can take a lot of really difficult, complex problems and say, okay, how do you solve this day in and day out? Recognizing if I solve it right now, 20 minutes from now or a half hour from now, it's going to be different, and I got to resolve it again. And those are things that just happen every day.
Hey, Jeff, I had a question. How much has the focus on food safety impacted, I guess, both the TMS and the WMS business, since you're familiar with both of those? I mean, I know when I was with Nestle, it just became, a huge project for us, and they had to take account of. I was just curious, from looking at different companies, what have you seen?
Yeah, I mean, food safety is paramount, right? It's table stakes for organizations today, and being able to track your lot codes, of all your production, all the way down through the channel to your end consumers and customers, is very critical. And so there's a lot more thought when you're shipping products out related to, making sure the lot codes that are on the inventory that you're picking are going to be the lot codes that get put on the final packing list going out the door, right?
Absolutely.
And without that, you don't have that traceability to be able to say, okay, if we have a problem, where is this product in the chain. So
No, I think you hit it there with the food safety, Jeff. Many of the manufacturers and shippers today are able to trace back to the seed,
right,
to the plot, to the
right,
seed in moments,
yeah, it's
right?
amazing,
So,
right? To think about.
we do a lot of recall scenarios too, because they're high visibility, high liability, high value, and they need to be done correctly. So, when you talk about food safety, when there is a problem, when the grower, shipper, manufacturer can get you the information in a timely manner, you're able to react and then become proactive on chasing it down
Right,
in a matter of time.
right, yeah, absolutely,
I
yeah,
mean, your window where 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it was, we're bringing everything back because we don't know what is and isn't bad and what
Right.
is and isn't good. Now we'll have it in an hour
right, yeah,
and it'll be on a spreadsheet, and then you'll start going and getting it,
right,
start making arrangements to pick it
Right,
back up,
right.
stop it from inventory and go get it and pick it up, dump. And when you dump it, it's not just dump it in a dumpster. You're putting it in a landfill. You need proof of destruction. You need the paperwork on the back end in those scenarios where food safety becomes a question.
Sure,
So you have to understand, is it a voluntary recall or is it a mandatory recall and there's other problems? So understanding what those scenarios are and how to navigate those in a timely manner are
right,
definitely critical
right,
to companies being successful.
right, right. Yeah, no doubt. And I think the consumer is becoming a lot more savvy in terms of, particularly when it comes to food products, what they're putting in their bodies, and what reading the labels on the back, what's actually in this product, and that type of thing. So, food safety is paramount, in today's world.
And the liability is too great to take any chances.
Right, right.
So with AutoScheduler, how long have you been with AutoScheduler now?
So I joined in May of 2022. So the company itself will be 4 years old this August, started in August of 2020. So on the one hand, we're a relatively young software company, but the technology that has been developed, Tom Moore and team really developed it for Procter & Gamble over a 10 plus year period of time. So, P&G, a decade plus ago approached Tom and said, hey, we have all these distribution centers. They all handle the same set of products, going to the same set of customers. But if you looked at the performance metrics from DC to DC, they were markedly different. And then if you drilled down further and said, well, first shift, second shift, third shift, all had different performance metrics in terms of how well they were doing. So they were basically saying, how do we apply best practices, best metrics to make sure that all our DCs are running as optimally as they can all the time. And so that led to the development of what we now know as AutoScheduler on behalf of P&G. And, Tom was wise enough to be able to develop the source code and maintain the rights to the source code. And so fully deployed it at Procter & Gamble over a 10 plus year period of time. And then in August of 2020, he received the green light from Procter & Gamble to basically take what he had built for them out to the marketplace. So that was kind of the genesis, if you will, of AutoScheduler as we know it today. So P&G is still a great customer. Today, they're not an owner, investor, or anything like that. We're independently owned software company.
Continue watching on the next episode of the Stay in Your Lane podcast.